Good morning, hello, and happy Wednesday, halfway through the week. Good morning, hello. Ooh, I could turn that down. And, happy Wednesday, come on. Halfway through the week. There you go. Okay, so at least YouTube volume is working. So I've got YouTube chat stream on, so I could actually see chat today, and we'll see if the restream bot is working today. It was like working every single time until I decided to be lazy and not actually check it. So that was fun. But let's see, let me leave that up there like that. All right, so today we're working on the article itself. So we have, let's see, okay. By the end of this lesson, you'll be able to describe what Axum extensions are, describe when to use an Axum extension, describe the difference between a layer and a route layer, use an extension to share data with route handlers, retrieve data from an extension in a route handler. Okay, so I think those are all good. So what are Axum extensions? Extensions are, I don't think that they're necessarily middleware, but let's go see how they describe them. So I guess they're, yeah, they don't really, they don't really explain very much, besides that they're a way to, yeah, it's just more of the, like, there's not much about this in the Axum documentation. Okay, so extensions are a one of the two main methods. I guess like two official methods, so like two ways of sharing sharing state across across route handlers. The state can be set at can be, I guess, like hard coded, so can be hard coded and made available hard coded, or set at runtime. The big downside to extensions are that they must, let's see, what is it about extensions? Oh, extensions are checked. Meaning that if you fail to, I don't want to use the word fail. If there's a problem, if you want to have something like extensions, but but they are checked at compile time. Stacking, hello, how are you doing today? I do have so the thing is that yesterday I went into the chat on Restream and I saw that the checkbox for it was checked. So it was available, but that was it too yesterday. It was checked yesterday as well. It just decided not to run. And I don't know why. That feels a little bit weird. Oh, I don't need that timer up anymore. So yeah, very odd and confusing all around. It's not great. Okay. Continue on with this. Also, I can't remember if I actually said good morning stacking, but good morning stacking. Hello, how are you doing today? If you want to have something like extensions, but they're checked to compile time, then you probably want state. Okay. Let's see. Extensions were the first way to share state across multiple Mike, what's today? I vaguely remember seeing that, but I don't remember where the reference is. Like the name of it. I'm like all I'd get is a bunch of colors in my brain. Which is not helpful. So that's cool. Dottie, hello. Good afternoon. Oh, it's a Geico commercial? Oh, I haven't been watching. I don't watch very many commercials. So that I wonder if I've like seen it and it like subtly like has like embedded itself in my like a very basic part of it in my subconscious as like visuals, but I was like wondering if it was a cartoon or something. But that a commercial also works with that, doesn't it? It's 10 years old. Oh, maybe that's what it is. It's just too old for my brain. I don't remember things from like, last week. So why should I remember things from 10 years ago? Okay. Extensions are the first way to share state across multiple route handlers and middleware. They are also easier to add in middleware. So if you have some for Axum extensions, then this would be a reason why I should potentially write the article first. I just realized writing this here that I probably want to add into the lesson using using extensions in middleware, because like that's, to me, this is like one of the biggest use cases for it. So I'll probably want to change it. Okay. Extensions are the first way to share state across multiple route handlers and middleware. They're also easier to add in middleware. So if you have like a let's say we have a middleware function to handle authentication. It can, so you have a middleware function to handle authentication. Also explain what middleware is. Let's see. Oh yeah, well, see, and that's why I'm like, ooh, I'm wondering if we should change it to put this down here, right? Like have extensions come after middleware. Because like looking at this, there's not really much that's like required for. Yeah, I think extensions should come like after the middleware section. Because like there's not really much that we're getting from it elsewhere. It's just sort of like a, hey, look, there's this thing about extensions. Yeah. Short description is, you know, you're handling that later in another tutorial. Yeah, but I don't know how nice that is either. Perhaps an overview of the terminology used before digging in. Yeah. That's all good too. So like what I'm trying to do is like, what are Axum extensions? But I think like to even get through this, I need to like discuss what middleware is. So like let's imagine and pretend that lesson already exists. We've already written it. So we have a middleware already. So extension are one of so extensions, I guess like what we could do are can be helpful to share data between route handlers and middleware functions. Both state, okay, so so it can be helpful to share data between route handlers and middleware functions. State can do this very well, but state is best used as server state, meaning that we don't really change it after the server starts running, after the server launches. Enter extensions. They are runtime checked and can and we can have as many of them in the system, like in the app, as we want. This makes them perfect for dynamic sort of data sharing at runtime. Overviews with don't worry about this never work. Did I put that? Or is that just probably what we were talking about? Because developers are curious people, and the second you say them words, they're already going down the rabbit hole. That feels very true. At least for me, because like if I see something like, "Hey, don't worry about this. You'll never run into it." I'm like, "Oh, really? Well, you know, we're about to run into that because I'm going to force that just to see what it's like." I do that all the time. I'm guilty of that. I'm also literally the person who, after hearing about delete in JavaScript, opened up the console and then started deleting everything from the language until everything broke, just to see what would happen. How many tabs do we all have open now? So I'm a monster. I shut down my computer at the end of every day. So therefore, Firefox, Dev Edition. I do have Arc open in another window. That's a little bit harder to see because like it keeps them open forever, and like bookmarks and that are the same thing as tabs. So that's the thing that has the most tabs. You hate tabs. You keep everything to a max of 3 tabs, so your back button does have a worn out spot in it. I suppose that works if you have a touch screen, right? You just wear out that spot. Okay, now let's share data between route handlers and middleware functions. State can do this very well, but state is best used as server state, meaning that we don't really change it after the server launches. Enter extensions. They are runtime checked, and we can have as many of them in the app as we want. This makes them perfect for dynamic data sharing at runtime. Keys can get worn out, trust me. Yeah, but do you actually have a back key? I'm looking at my keyboard. I don't have like, I guess like command left arrow. I don't use that very often anymore. I used to use that more often. Okay, so they're runtime checked. Okay, so we've created this. So an introduction. Okay, so this is all part of what are Axum extensions of like why do we want them to? Then we move on. So now we get that. We're gonna say, okay, extensions. So we've already done extensions are one of the 2 ways. Okay, so we can create extensions in Axum. Like I guess hard coded. What would be the words you want to say to describe that they're like you're just writing it in and it's like just available for everything, like the one we did where it's just like, hey, it's just like state. So we can create extensions 2 different ways. We can create extensions in 2 different ways in Axum. First, we can use a layer or route layer to add an extension to routes in the router. Or we can dynamically add an extension in middleware. Middleware is still used. Middleware still uses layer. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, so we can create extensions. We can insert extensions into the router in two ways. First, we can okay, so like first we can define create. We can create the extension in the at the same time that we create the router. Second, we can create the extension in a middleware and insert it into the what would that chain be called? Does that have an official name? I don't think I've ever thought of it as like a named thing. Route sequence? Okay, so second we create the extension in the middleware and insert it into the, I don't want to use the word state. Or maybe we can add the extension. We can add the extension in a middleware. Okay, those are the two things then. So I don't know if I care about that right now. We'll get to that in a little bit when we actually create it. And then we don't care about that anymore. Okay, so it can be helpful to share data between route handlers and middleware functions. State can do this pretty well. State can do this very well. I think that very well is better than pretty well. But state is best used as server state, meaning that we don't really change it after the server launches. Well, we don't really change each of the individual extensions either. So I don't think this is exact. So written as it is not exactly correct either. State is best used, but we can only have one state object, and it is best used as server state. We can only have one state object, which shouldn't change. Oh, hey, okay, so that works. We now have Restream bot working here. Virtuoserable. Hello, how are you doing? Sorry for butchering your username. Thanks for doing this series. Your previous videos have been awesome for learning Rust and Axum. Ah, thank you. I'm glad they're helpful. Also, how are you doing today? Coffee drinker, hello. And how are you doing? Which typically contains static state. Ooh, I like. Do I want static state or server state? Because like static state, yeah, it's like it doesn't change. And I keep on seeing people in all, like one of the biggest sort of like things I see people attempting to do, which I don't agree with, is using state to, like, they try to put in a what is it called? Try to stuff in a like an arc mutex so they could update the state with user data in the middle of it, which is like, no, don't. But I think like that there's a mental model about how servers work. I should probably have a lesson on just like how stateless web servers work, because like that's kind of what we're supposed to be doing. Coffee, you just had a day full of meetings, so you're exhausted. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Isn't it funny how like we're not doing anything in meetings oftentimes, but they're more exhausting than if we're just left alone and just like coding or like figuring out hard problems. It's kind of funny how that works, right? Or maybe we're just all introverted and we just like that's what drains us. You have used it for storing your config. This might be wrong. Yeah, so the I think it's great for config, right? It's like a single state is great for config, because a config is something that like stays the same and it's available for all the server stuff, right? Exactly, which includes the Postgres pool. So like think of it not as user state, but as server state. It's a state for the server to do stuff with. So you your Postgres pool or your MySQL pool or whatever, your database pool does need to be like it's a state for the server. So therefore it goes into the state object, which is great. It also implements like an arc mutex type stuff behind the scenes, so you don't need to like do that again because it's a pool, which is great because you can just clone it, but you still have the same pool. If you're trying to like do user type of data, there's a couple different patterns that you can use for it. I think like the biggest thing for me that helped, and I'm trying to remember like when I had this sort of like the mental model shift that worked out very well, because I think I had the same problem when I was learning, but I don't remember when I was like, oh, I get it now, which sucks because that means I can't teach it as well. Like that's one of those it's called the expert what is it called? It's there's an educational theory term which is like the expert dilemma, which is if you get good enough at something, it becomes harder to teach it because you forget what it's like to not know it. Yeah, so one of the best ways to sort of try things is try not using an arc mutex for the pool, and then just see if it works. Because if it just works, that means that it's they've implemented it for you. Next.js had a problem where it was mixing server state and user state in a docs. So it's causing this exact issue where people leaked user state. Oh, yeah. So, okay. I need to figure out a way to do this, but let's go over it really quickly. Because this is like a cool mental model shift, and maybe it'll help some of us. So let's imagine that we have our server here. I don't actually know what I want to do with these shapes or something. We have our Axum server. We're gonna have let's use this shape. So we have a client, which is obviously, well, it's not always going to be a web browser, right? Like a client could be another server, it could be like a Postman client, it could be curl, it could be a video game, it could be an IoT device, literally anything. And I think like when we're developing the servers, we often end up with just this, right? We have one client, which is us, and the server, and then we're hitting it in a one-to-one fashion. What's important to remember, though, is that when it's being used for Reels, it's an unknown, it's an n number of clients hitting one server. But it's really nice for us to build it out so that way we could potentially have this. This is called scaling horizontally. So what you might have, the way this works is sort of like different depending upon your implementation. But let's say, what shape can I use? There's not really a good shape for this. I'll use this. This will be a load balancer. ICS Boix. Hello, how are you doing today? Oh, that's a weird decide to go for this. All okay? Yeah, that's great. I'm doing pretty good. We're figuring out, I've been trying to teach the extensions and to create a lesson in that, and it's like, oh, I'm realizing I probably need to do a lesson on this, which would probably be a codeless lesson, and probably more of like a graphical, like just talk about it lesson. So the client, which I don't think I would need to like create like one of these lines, right? A client talks to the load balancer. All of these do that. All the clients talk to the load balancer. For something that's supposed to balance the load, you sure did pick the most least stable shape. What? I mean, okay. I mean, if you'd like, here. Hold on, I can fix this. Does that help? It's balanced. You can tell it's balanced because it's not falling off and it's centered. I don't know how to actually create lines. I used to do that. How do I create a line in this? I don't remember anymore. That was adjusting other things. Okay, whatever. All of these clients send their messages to the one load balancer. The load balancer then chooses which one of these to send to. There's like an entire thing about, like, it's all in DevOps and systems administration and networking and all that stuff for how to choose, like how to set this up and what to go with. Let's just say the most popular and the cheapest one is something called round robin. That would be where client A, so this client sends a message to the load balancer. Load balancer says, here you go to this one. So it sends this client through here to that one. So basically the client isn't aware that there's multiple Axum servers. As far as the client is aware, there's one Axum server. All it sees is the load balancer. So it says, okay, go to here, loads that one. This client says, oh, I want something. It goes to here and it says, okay, you're going to here. This client, I want to get something, and it goes back to here again. And so the load balancer just goes, you, and it tries to balance the load across all the servers. Kind of obvious why it's called load balancer, right? You can have n number of Axum servers, and what's fairly common is to increase the number of servers as the load increases. So let's say you have like your company is going to do a big product release and their marketing team is like really revving up. They've decided to go to, I don't know, like New York, like downtown New York, and they purchased an advertisement on that like big screen that's like on Times Central Square or whatever it is, like, you know, that big one that's in all the movies. They purchased, like, I don't know, they spent like $5 million to get like 5 seconds or something like that. I don't actually know how much it cost. And so they've asked us as the developers, I want your system to, like, don't crash, please. Like, we're expecting 500,000 viewers at the exact same time. Please don't crash. And so you spin up like a ton of these. What, you don't like my explanations and like my knowledge about the country I live in? I've only been to New York twice. I think I've been to New York twice in my life. So I don't remember much about it. I want to go back again though. None of that will be in the actual lesson when we do this for real. We're just going to get this out of my system now. So because of that, and then the other thing is that, let's say this client, let's use, oh, that's where these things come in. Okay. So let's use these arrows again. So let's just focus on this client. This client sends a message here, and this is going to be the first message. The good news is that we'll all be in New York City this weekend. I know you want to party, but I'm not going to be in New York City. I'm going to be here. I'm far away from that. Is this a good way to show this off? I'm not convinced. Party canceled. Yeah, sorry, I can't come, so party canceled, right? Okay. Just get your job to pay for React Summit and buy a ticket by the end of today. My job will not pay for that. We don't even use React. There is no way. There is no way I can convince my my company to pay for that. Groovy, hello. How are you doing today? It's a very good way, but maybe different colors for different requests. Okay, yeah. So I've got that. So all right, here's the idea. Request 1 comes down from, so this is all from the same client. Let's get rid of these. So we have here's our situation. We have a single client. Please specify that the load balancer must handle connection session persistence to the same node server. I think by default it doesn't do that unless you configure them. I'm trying to remember like the various load balancers that I've worked with, and most of them don't do that by default, but there's always a setting that you can do to do it. And it does have some drawbacks. Yeah, it does have some drawbacks, but my opinion on this is that we should program our backends to handle it as if we're not going to have it. That's just a me thing, because that does get rid of sessions, so you can't do sessions in the backend. Except that's a kind of a lie, because you can do sessions if you store the sessions in Redis as opposed to in memory or on disk. So, okay, let's say request 1 comes in from the client, hits the load balancer, gets redirected to Axum server A. The same client says like, okay, I want more information. So sends another request to the load balancer, but this time it gets Axum server B, but it's not aware of that. This client, as far as it's considered, as far as it knows, is the same Axum server every time. And these Axum servers, every time it hits it, it's like, this is the first time I've been contacted by this user. Well, it doesn't really know the first time it sits that. And then throughout the sort of like that request as it going through here, it's going to maybe like figure that out. So if you do sessions, I like to use Redis or Postgres or like something else. You can, in AWS, I don't know about the other clouds, that you can actually share a file system across them all. So you could also like do that. But this is one of the reasons why DevOps is a thing, because if the developers know how the operations of the servers are going to be, then you can write your servers better, and you can like actually customize it to how it's going to be run. Otherwise, you have to code defensively. So, all right, so we hit here, you hit here, and then you might have to hit like a Redis database to say like, okay, you gave me a token. Who are you? Or some like, maybe this might be just Postgres, whatever. It's a DB of some kind. And then third one, we come to here. So because of that, we don't want to store specific user information in state, especially if that's going to persist. Like the state thing is going to persist across many users, which is dangerous, because what if like another client comes in now and makes a request, and the state for this first client, well, it's now just loaded in to state. What if you accidentally now share something about that user? That's not great. Usually use Postgres is the most elegant way. Use Redis for something as have a light status of. I could like, yeah, connected WebSocket clients. Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that. So what, let's see. With an extension, what you want the extension to do is be at runtime for that series of routes, and then it just gets overwritten every single time. And it's like, okay, well, now the new user is this. Now the user is this. So I like to do state for things that you need, like connection to the database, who you are, maybe who the load balancer is, although usually you don't care as the Axum server. Usually it's just like things that it needs to run. And then I like extensions for things about the client. Does that make sense? Is this even close to a good explanation? I feel like it's the beginning of a good one. Yeah, it doesn't even get overwritten. It just goes out of scope and gets dropped. Yeah, exactly. That's true. I guess it depends upon when you load it into the request. If you create the extension and like somehow manage to like put it in at the very beginning, it's there forever. But overwritten sounds dangerous. Yeah, that's true. Never heard the term extension. As context can be interesting to see what exactly you want to achieve with them and what they are. So the problem is that Axum, the technology that we're writing this, like we're writing the tutorial for, it uses the term its extensions. So let's go back to our code. So in the router, like for example, this is adding an extension, which is like a little bit of code, like this address and this port. This is a little bit of a forced example because I personally think that this would be better put into state because this is something that the server should know about. So this would probably be best to state. So perhaps, yeah, perhaps I should like hold off on this lesson until we do other lessons to sort of like, then I can build on that. Yeah, use the Axum state with arc for Redis. You shouldn't need an arc or that for a pool. It just works. Like the various pools should already implement a arc mutex behind the scenes for you, so you should just be good to go with it. But the big thing that I think extensions are good for is if we create, yeah, for a pool when they don't implement clone. Wait, are there pools that don't implement clone? That sucks. So like the so the let's see, C or M and I think SQLX, the pools that you use for them, I believe, implement clone. Yeah, you know, we've used clone with those. So those pools implement clone. So those can just go straight in. It must be a different clone, right? It must be a different tool than that. I mean, them two are made by the same team, so it does make sense. That does make sense. Okay. So it can be helpful to share data between route handlers and middleware functions. Oh, let's also add that in. So like how servers work. Explain how the problem is, like, we call it like stateless, but there is state, but it's also like I think when we're talking about stateless is like remembering state from a user across sessions. That's usually what we mean by stateless. So like how stateless servers work. Like that's what I want to do. This would probably have to come up here somewhere before we get to everything else. No Demon, hello. How are you doing today? So you're just gonna go, you're gonna flow out up here somewhere. Okay, so we can insert extensions into the router in two different ways. Okay, so this makes them perfect for dynamic data sharing at runtime. We can insert extensions into the router in two different ways. First, we can create the extensions at the same time that we create the router. Okay, the same time that we create the router, this will feel, or this feels like maybe like state can do this the exact same way. Funny one to say hello. You need to hit the gym now. Well, have a great time at the gym, and thanks for stopping by and saying hello. We can insert extensions into the router in two different ways. First, we can create the extension at the same time that we create the router. This is very similar to state. In Axum. And say in Axum. I guess like I'll mention that later. That'll be a later thing. Okay. So we can insert an extension in the router to, okay, so we do that stuff. Second, we can insert an extension into the route flow, data flow, path flow, something flow, maybe? We can insert an extension into, I don't know what that thing is called, like where just all the parameters and other stuff live. I don't know if I've ever thought about it. In something like Express, it would just be like you're just mutating the request. So well, maybe that's what it is. We can insert an extension to the request in a middleware. Okay, so second, we can insert an extension into the request in a middleware function. This is okay. So we just talk like, hey, we can do that. So you have always used middlewares. They may have been where the confusion came from. Yeah, I've always used like middleware for, well, I started using Axum before state came out. So we were using extensions just for server-side state initially. And then state came out. It's like, oh, I don't need this extension anymore. And then I was writing something. I was like, ooh, actually, you know what? Like, what if we wanted to like have something that takes in like the user object and it goes and loads the user and like injects it into the request. And I was remembering like that's how like a lot of other frameworks do it, is like in some kind of middleware, they use something from the request, like a token or like a cookie, and they say, oh, okay, I'm going to grab the ID. We're going to validate that it's a valid user and a valid session, as it were. And then we're going to go to the database, load the user up, and insert it into, like, to make it available for everyone else. I guess like a session would be appropriate too, but the problem is that there is such a thing called session, which it will make it really confusing because that's not great. Because I don't want people to get confused with like session cookies or sessions like that. So what I'm probably going to have to do per request session, which like now it's just getting wordy, right? Okay, so second, we can insert an extension into the request because like I think this one is like per into the request. I think we're going to have to go with that for right now. In a middleware function. Okay, so let's just jump into that. So you have used the term context. Ooh, context might work because I don't think context is a thing in Axum, right? Yeah, okay, so there's no such thing as context. Let's use that. I like that. Is this a valid example? I have a user ID stored in the cookie. I extract the user ID from the cookie in a middleware and add it to the request. Yes, you call it context. Okay, yeah, I think so. And then what you can go one step further if you want, which would be to use that user ID to go to the database and like load all the data in user that wasn't being stored in the cookie, and then put that in the context too. That way, anything else is like, oh, I don't have to like make another database request to go get that user to do something with it. They just have it. And even better if it's something like CRM, because you could just like update and save and you're just done. Or you could just make another thing. Exactly, that is what I'm doing. Just not doing the request that often because I only get the data you need. Yeah. And that's like something too that I think is like a little bit weird, because we're working with requests from like users at unknown times. We make a lot of connections to the database and sort of like hit it a lot, but they're small. Like they're really small sort of like hits to the database. And then sort of like moving and like trying to get like too much at once and pre-optimize that might actually make things slower in the end, which is kind of a funny, weird thing that can happen. But that's all theory of constraint stuff. Xanax, hello. How are you doing today? Okay, so did I use... I only use you there. Okay, so let's just change you to be context. Okay, so second we can insert an extension into the route context. Ooh, I like that. The route context in a middleware function. Okay, I like that. So let's just do like the basic, so global context. Using layer and route layer. Okay, so the we can insert extensions and make them available for all or some routes using when we create the extension, when we create the router, or when we define the routes. I have this for my context, impl s send plus sync from request parts s for context. Oh, do you actually create like a context like struct for that? I usually do. I usually actually don't create like a single context thing, but create multiple extensions and like throw them in there. So I might have like a single extension for the user, a single extension for like something else. A struct with the user ID in it. Oh, okay. Usually, I don't feel I need to... Do I need to implement send plus sync? Usually you just need to make it implement clone. I think that's all you need. I think all you really need is clone. But I could be missing something. But when we get to the examples, we'll double find out. Okay, so we can insert extensions and make them available to all or some routes when we define the routes. So in the router, we use layer and route layer. Yeah, route layer for this. For example, here's a router. Here is a create router. function that is adding the server address and port to as an extension. As an extension that all routes will be able to read. Okay. So let's like add some more fake routes here. So let's say, okay, we have like health check. We have like maybe, let's do like a CRUD for like a to-do type thing. So we have maybe like a task. So we have like get all tasks. We maybe like a post. Whoa. We have a post to create task. Okay, so get all tasks, post create tasks, tasks like what is it? ID, something like that. So get task by ID. Update and delete. Well, that kind of doesn't it kind of doesn't work there. Okay. Ah, stop. No. There you go. Ah, no, stop. Stop. Do what I tell you. Okay. Update task. And then finally you'd be at delete. Okay, so if we do that, yeah, you don't like me because I didn't actually do all the stuff. I don't have all the route handlers and the functions, but it's okay. We have these two route layers, and we're going to use this as an example. So I'm going to take you in, I'm going to grab you and paste you in here. I'm going, what? I'm going to grab you, paste you in there. There we go. Okay, so in this example, okay, so we have to explain what this is and what's going on with this. So extension okay, so route health check. Okay, the extensions, okay, so both the address and the port are being added to the route context using layers. Notice that they are in the extension extractor struct. I guess I'll just use struct. Notice that they are in the extractor struct. Because the layer can also like put in middleware and do all sorts of other fun stuff. The layer will make the port extension available to all. Okay, so this is going to be like the first time like a request. So all requests, regardless if they match the match one of the routes. Defined above. This means that if we have a request to / like let's something that will result in a 404, then the extension is still available to be used in middleware that would also match with that route, with that request. Using the route layer only makes the okay, so the route layer makes the extension, makes the address extension only available to requests that match one of the okay, so that match one of the routes defined above. Do you think it would be important to note that this is only for routes above and not for any routes you have declared afterwards? Yes, that is going to be a very important thing, because I do believe that that's going to be like a huge confusion for a lot of people, especially if you've come from almost any other backend framework where it's the opposite. It kind of makes sense once you sort of like think about how they've implemented it, like how they possibly can implement it when it's just all one thing and then you're just running methods on it. It's like, oh, then therefore it has to be done that way. But most of the time it's actually not. Most of the time it's like separate commands you're doing, and therefore you need to set it up ahead of time. Becomes even more important when you start using merge. Oh yeah, and you have nested routes. Yes, definitely. And also, like, I believe I can put on a route layer here. Like, we can do that like layer at this point. Let me make sure I'm not completely lying on that. Will you still help me out, or are you just gonna be upset? Yeah, I can do a route layer at this point in time. And so that this one would say, okay, the layer in here. So if I do like, if I did that extension port, here, it would make this middleware, this extension, only available to the health check route, which actually is nice. Like, it's really nice to be able to do that sometimes. I like this. Oh, hello. Hi. Are you here to critique my code? Yes? Do you wanna Do you want to hang out? Okay, we have cat. Okay, so I need to cover that too. That's fun. All right, so we're starting with this one. We're starting simple, and we're gonna like it's reverse onions, right? We're gonna start simple, and we're gonna add layers to it. The route layer makes the address extension only available to requests that match one of the routes defined above. We can put that in route here. So a note on where to put, or maybe we should a note on. I don't need that. Where to put the route, the layers. We have several choices of where to put the layers. We can put them in. We can put them at the end of the route. We can put them at the end of the route, sort of like chain. So the route declaration chain as defined above. Or we can also add them to specific routes. Well, actually, or we can put them between routes, attached to specific route handlers, and also to groups of routes being merged together. The general idea of how the layers work stays the same regardless of where they are positioned, but which route handlers have access to them does depend on the position. In general, so the rule of thumb. Does that make sense? If somebody who has English as like a not first language, would they understand rule of thumb? Or is that like an American idiom? Maybe like a way of thinking about it. Sounds good to you? Okay. Let's keep that in. So like the rule of thumb, I'll keep it in here for right now, and then if I get anybody like asking me like what does that mean, I'll change it out. Okay, so the rule of thumb is that route handlers above the layer have access to the contents of the layer. This means in the example above that all the route handlers have access to both the address and port extensions. Let's take a look at another example. I keep on forgetting to like hit enter to go into the actual tab. All right, so let's drop you down and like put you here. In this case, the first three routes have access to the address extension, and the last three do not. This is a very important thing to keep in mind while creating the creating your routes, while defining your routes. Layers are only available to route handlers above them. Okay. Do you want to do a merge? Do I have another merge in here? Can I do that? We could do a merge. That creates a router, but that should be fine. I can put a merge in here, right? So merge, and then oh, it takes like another router here, right? So I can just do like a router new. Router new, and then I want to, let's say, add you in there like that. Okay, yeah, this should work. Okay, so then in the merge case, then I could do maybe split the example up in different parts, one for layers, one for merge. There's also nest. Oh, I forgot about nest. There's so many things. Oh yeah, there's nest too. Okay, so this is making me think that I should really pivot to a middleware lesson How often do we use different routers without merging them in or nesting them? Is that, I've never even considered that as like a viable thing in an application. Like usually at some point you want it like all merged together into this single centralized router, right? Also, there goes Zilby pointing away from the camera again. Zilby, you want to look at the camera? Okay, that might be better. Slightly better. I think for a simple typical CRUD to-do app, this is getting too complicated, which is likely your target audience. Yeah. I feel like this needs to be broken out. Like the router needs to be its own thing. I have one router for routes auth, then nest my API routes under API, and then this router I have a router for stuff like user CRUD, task CRUD. Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay, so you create full routers for that. Which then allows you to do different files. What I need to figure out is like what's the bare minimum that I can teach that then somebody can take and then roll with it, right? How I feel like this needs to be a router. Like we need a router lesson. Oh, I have like nested routers here. It's like I almost feel like we need nested routers, or like maybe instead of like nested routers, we have like multiple routers. Routers. Is there some way to send a Git link? Yeah, I believe that if you can send it here or on Discord. Either way, I should be able to see it. So if you want to join Discord, that is the link to join the Discord. Okay, so Dodi, you do the same thing as Groovy. Okay, so yeah, I almost feel like I need, so before extensions to Axum, we need multiple routers. That needs to be work up here, but like maybe that could be just something else we do. Extensions can like work down here, but then I really need extensions after middleware so that these come down here, really. And I don't even know if I want to teach that. You come from the Java enterprise world where we split everything up way too much. Okay, here's your okay, so you love splitting stuff up. It's like it's a thing where sometimes splitting stuff up is like the right thing to do, but sometimes it's not. But okay, let's see. We have our. Is this just a? Oh, it's like an actual app. Cool. Oh, so you put your route stuff into main. I usually like just leave main the bare minimum that I possibly can, and I create a routers folder. So, and then that way I can just do like the route handlers and the routers all in there, sort of like separated out. Web is my routers folder. Oh, okay. So you have your, so like routes auth, you have more routes in here. Do you have a router in here? Oh, so you, okay, you do like router new route. So router new route. Okay, so you do all that stuff here. That makes sense. I hate the fact that like sometimes I just want to click on stuff and not have it open up everything. Please. Although like it is nice that you can like now actually see stuff in Rust in here and like trace it around. That's pretty cool. So okay, so this makes sense. So all of these, are these all going to have a route? They're not. Yep. There's your inserting the extensions that we'll have to get into later. Okay, so this is your middleware stuff. Yeah. I sometimes create like a middlewares folder just because I get confused about like where I put stuff later, and organizing it that way works with my brain. Cool. Okay. So yeah, I like that. That works. That works. So like you can have multiple routers. Do not want to split up this small app even further. There's a theory in development for like knowing how to like break things up, and it's often about knowing or thinking about like where sources of change come from. So like I can imagine like, okay, well, if like auth, you want to like do that kind of stuff as a separate route type thing. Well, you probably want to do like all the CRUD stuff as their own routes, don't you? And then I usually do middleware. Okay, so I like to have like try to have as much control over stuff as possible, which usually means trying to keep things in like less like in the same files, but then they all link out to other files, you know, with the like the route handlers and all that stuff. But I like to create like a single auth middleware for like authorize or something like that, or login or whatever. And then that I can use that. I could either do the sort of like the expressway, the old expressway of like just saying, okay, we now have like this route layer, and then there would be what middleware from. Isn't it from like middleware? Isn't there a middleware thing? It's like some middleware something from function or whatever. Ooh, I'm forgetting what it is. This is a problem about taking a break to go do a course on SQLX, is now I've forgotten how this works. You've actually done it. You had the middleware. Oh, that's the MW. Okay. My brain did not associate MW with middleware when I saw it. Yeah, Axum middleware. Isn't there like Axum middleware from function or something? And then there should be a router route they use. No, that's from. Oh, this is actually the full one. It's being used somewhere else, right? Oh, and main.rs line 35. Yes. Okay. Oh, did I start with capital M? I started with capital M. Yeah. So if I do like from function, like that, and then the function is going to be like, you know, authorize, then like I might do something like this to say like, okay, everything defined above is like must be authorized, like you must be something else. And then I've also done it like I go back and forth, but for some of them I might do something like this where I have like a merge, I might actually say, and then route layer, middleware from function, and then this would be something like I've named it a few different things, and I've never really like settled on the best one that I want to do. It's like maybe firewall, or like from function. I want like requires like oh, so it's authorize, and then there's authentication and authorization. So like it might be like firewall, and then I might do like an extension in here also to like then say, hey, only admins. Like which user it is that's allowed in. And that way I could say like, okay, these routes get like, you know, you have to be logged in for these routes. You have to be logged in as an admin for these routes. Something like that. And there's so many different ways you can do it. And the thing is, like, I'm not convinced that there's like a huge number of terrible ways to do it, because it's so easy to refactor in Rust. Like even in like Node.js with Express or with Laravel with the route handling systems, those are all fairly trivial to like change the routes around. It's the actual middleware or the functions themselves. That's what you want like really separated out, because those are going to be changing all the time. All right, well, I'm going to save this so I can like review it later, or like change or think about it later. We're going to have to make a decision about whether or not I'm actually going to continue on this lesson right now, or if I'm going to leave it and then go on to go choose something else. I might want to like this afternoon switch to just working on this lesson, like how servers work, like how stateless servers work. And I might, this is theory stuff. We really need this for the people who are, yeah, when we do this, when we're in the middle of state stuff. So multiple routers. So you know what? I think this all comes here. I think headers might be next. I think I should pivot to doing the lesson on headers next. And then we'll do middleware. That, I'm going to think about it. I'm going to let my subconscious percolate on this for a little bit. And then sort of we'll do all that stuff. Let's see. I have let's see. Lost my train of thought. Oh, I have you have a header test repo where you showed the header stuff first to introduce Axum. Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I'm doing it a little bit later. As you can see, like the plan is I'm starting with like just like hello world. I'm going early in with logging with tracing. Just the logging part, not like any of the advanced stuff with tracing. I don't think I'm actually going to do any advanced tracing stuff with this course. There's just too much of it. Maybe that could be like a module later that we can add in. And then it's just basically JSON, path variables, query variables, custom, like responding with custom, like custom success, custom errors, which I think involves error handling. Yeah. Um, state. Okay, so we did state. Yeah, so like these are all lessons on extractors. It's like extracting out and then also sending out, right? So like both the extractor and the responder, sender, response, something like that. So I think this would make sense to be the next one. Oh, Sherry makes art. Welcome, Sherry. Sherry. I keep on forgetting how you pronounce your name. Hello, how was your stream today? Unfortunately, we were I do need to head off to my day job. But we'll be doing a forward raid. It's going well. How was your stream? You working on? I think I saw a the message. You were working on Android stuff today, right? Or am I thinking of somebody else? Am I getting you confused with something else? Went well working on connecting to the internet and Android apps. Nice, excellent. I have never programmed an Android app before, so that all of that is foreign to me. But it sounds a lot of fun. Are you using Kotlin? Don't worry about that. We had a fun the other day. We had fun when somebody Togglebit rated us seconds after I stopped the stream. That was really funny. Kotlin and Jetpack Compose. Wait, just so you know, your restream bot is dead again. I think when you post links, YouTube is putting it in a filter or something. Oh, you're right. Oh, that's so strange. I don't know where to go to see that. That makes okay, so that okay, hold on, stop. Whatever you're trying to do. Okay, I don't know what YouTube is yelling at me about stuff. So I will figure that out later. But that's weird. So thank you, Stacking, for that. I do have a look down here for it, so I can see that there's nobody has been posting comments on YouTube, but I do need to keep my eye on that. And Restream Bot is not the best. We'll probably need to create our own at some point in time. But anyways, Kotlin, fun. Jetpack Compose, I hadn't heard of that one. But then again, I'm not really in the Android world very often, so that makes sense there. Okay, so let me head out of view. Okay, so yeah, Twitch is showing that you're still live. No, it's not. No, you're not. Okay, so what do we got? We got TeachDev is doing OCaml. I believe it's OCaml. Raimu is doing his data disintegrator with Rust. And Microsoft is doing Azure database for MySQL. So what do we want? Do we want OCaml, Rust, or MySQL? Compose is basically just a UI library. Oh, interesting. Okay, so that's nice. Compose is the Android version of declarative UI. Nice. It's DSL stuff. It's a very elegant solution. Oh, nice. Yeah, okay, so our choice. OCaml, Rust, or MySQL. And if none of you suggest anything, I will choose probably Rust. Because Raimu, we've rated Raimu a lot, and he's awesome. Which Postgres crate would I recommend? I think it depends, right? For the Postgres crate, I would probably I guess it's also for I would just use something like CRM or SQLX, and then use whichever Postgres connectors that they want to use. So like I would probably choose either CRM if you want an ORM, or SQLX if you don't want an ORM. And that would be my choices. And that works both for Postgres and for MySQL. So the cheating answer for both. All right, we have votes for Rust. All right, so here, let's do raid channel for Raimu. Start the raid. Let me jump in there and get past some advertisements. Nope, that's a screenshot. All right, so everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you came with the raid, thank you for hanging out. We're going to do a forward raid. I am streaming again later this afternoon at around 2:30 p.m. To continue with creating this lesson on what is it called? Axum. So with that, have a great rest of your day, and I will see you all next time. Bye.